All right. Thank you so much for having me. This is my Huggable piece of data. I can hug it. And I'm going to present on how we can use textile data visualization to potentially make our digital data last thousands of years. First, I'd like to thank Quinn Dombrowski, the teacher of my class, without whom I wouldn't be here. So thank you, Quinn. So I want to do a little stretch and also gauge the audience for who prefers hard drives. If you lean right versus cloud data, lean left. Maybe raise your hands. Right, left. So the thing that brings us together in this digital age is that we are all increasingly storing our data in cloud devices or digital devices. And that kind of storage is subject to rapid change. If you think about the history of humanity, it's like and in this past year, it's like AI, data visualization, all this Google Cloud storage, you're running out of storage, buy 2 terabytes for $20. It's like everything is happening so quickly. And maybe even hours ago, you were asking ChatGPT, what's the bug in my code? So if we have this rapid changes, it's very unpredictable what our future of data could look like. On top of that, we could get hacked, your data could get corrupted, there's planned obsolescence on a corporate scale for different iPhones having different charging points, for example. And it's expensive to maintain the physical spaces where all of our data is getting stored around the world, not to mention also harvesting the raw materials for this. I ran into an example recently about file obsolescence, where they literally said in their website update that any files you saved as this particular form of SVG will never be recoverable, and shape data is irretrievably lost for these file types. So that's what we're dealing with in this rapid changing age with each new software update. And moreover, the extent to which we rely on our digital systems these days is crippling when they fail. I was in the airport that day, the right 2 pictures are mine, when United, Delta, American Airlines were grounded because of a CrowdStrike software outage. And all the cancellations and everything, people were stranded. So we're like, what do we do? Also, what would we do if our hard drives got smashed? Well, we'd be left with a pile of electronic scraps and rare earth metals, probably not the memories we were looking for. Whereas if this just got smashed, I can iron it out and take a look at my PhD data again. All right, so all of this building up the case for looking back into the past at what our ancestors did to take our data out of our computers and into textiles, before computers even existed. So the oldest example I could think of textile data viz is Quipu, the system of knots used to record information by the Incan Empire 5,000 years ago. And the amazing thing about this is that we can touch and feel and even decipher this data today. So it's pretty proven that these types of data preservation are longer lasting and easier to preserve compared to modern day, flip phones. I can't even access my flip phone data from 2010. And in more recent history, there were even ways of using textile data visualization in World War II as espionage. So knitters would encode information about battle updates and send them in the form of sweaters to prisoners of war. And the way they did this was that in the yarn pieces, there'd be different knots, and they would associate each different type of knot with a letter of the alphabet. So in case you're inspired by any of these examples, I encourage you to try some of these how-tos and use your creativity to guide you. But basically, you can revisualize any 2D plot in the form of your choosing. If you already know how to do cross-stitching and sewing, or if you want to learn how to embroider and knit and weave, these are all possible ways of visualizing your data in textiles. So I have 2 examples that also make social statements in the way that they are turned into craft. The rightmost example is a cross-stitched form of a bar chart. And I bet we would all underestimate the time it took to make this chart which is partially the value that it's conveying of what's traditionally seen as women's work or hobby craft being devalued. And the point of the data in there is that women do a lot more unpaid labor than men. And now you don't have to be a woman to make these statements out of data into crafts. So I encourage everybody here to try it because it's really cool. On the right, we have beadwork as DNA, which makes the case for indigenous data sovereignty, turning information, computerized data about the DNA of diseases affecting indigenous populations into a woven burden strap, saying this is the data we carry. If you want to go further, you can even look at different dimensions of the material that you're using to create your visualization, such as texture or pattern or smell or direction of the yarn and different patterns. And you can choose various pieces of information to encode. So the bracelet image you see here is actually a large text data visualized in different patterns, and different quotations arise in the different patterns. It's also important to include metadata for decipherability unless you are doing espionage. So this metadata is held on the web, which is itself ephemeral, but it's very cool because you can zoom into the image of the bracelet and see what quotes emerge. Okay, so for this dress, I wanted to show you I forgot to include metadata labels of like what each panel has, but I'll be your metadata today. Here we have in the front all industries from 2010 to 2020. And since I'm interested in self-reported data, the green bars represent the potential for greenwashing among the companies within this industry whenever they put out a green signal of self-reported carbon data. And then we see trends in toxicity in the purple asterisks, where you see peaks over time in how many toxic chemicals these companies are reporting to the EPA as being released to the land, air, and water. And we also see some inflation in ESG scores over time for environmental social governance performance. And you wonder, what's the basis for these ratings and this improvement? And what I love about this is I used to be able to wear it before I washed it and it shrunk. And then you can hug it, you can, if you made a blanket, you could sleep under it. And I wouldn't be able to do this if I had showed you, for example, a different form of physicalization like printing, where you'd see 1,000 sheets of paper like unwaddling, and it would be indecipherable, unmaneuverable, and ungraspable of what's the main points for takeaways. So all this to make the case for looking a little bit further back into the past at the most successful forms of data preservation as we think about how to preserve our digital data today. And I look forward to seeing where your creativity takes you. Thank you.